Welcome everyone that has joined us today. We're on the second to last day of Open Branding Month, and I think we have mixed emotions over here. We don't know if we're excited or a little bit, relieved also, since it's been quite a ride. But I do have to say thank you to everyone, because the turnout has been incredible. The results have been amazing, and just the feedback that we've gotten, and for the speakers as well, I think they're super pleased with what we've managed to do. So I really appreciate you guys being here today yet again, especially to those of you that have returned for several of the sessions, which I always love to see. As you guys know, there's one more masterclass today on rebelsrulers.com for free, and then we have one more live Q&A tomorrow. So definitely join, and then after that we'll see what we update you with next, what our next move will be. But for now, you can also find all of the videos from all of the live Q&As on Facebook as well, if you search for Rebels and Rulers. So definitely, if there was one that you missed, you can see it there. As for today, we're continuing our session with two of, let's say, the most, I don't even know how to put it, like compassionate speakers that I think we had. And they suit each other very well. We have Marie, who, to her definite credit, has kind of, I don't want to say coined, but she definitely owns the title that is Human Factor Catalyst. She really knows how to bring that out in people, and she did such a great job with absolutely everybody that she met during the event. So we're super thrilled to have her be here with us today. And then Eric is such a warm soul, and almost like a long lost brother for us, given that his, I think, great grandfather was also Romanian. So or your grandfather was also Romanian. So there's a little bit of a something there. But actually, you might know Eric either from his presentation or the fact that he founded the Human OS, so the Human Operating System. So the way he looks at businesses and organizations is definitely in line with some of the more, let's say, empathetic and purposeful, let's say, approaches that we've seen come up and over again this year. So today, together, we're gonna obviously talk a lot about that. So welcome, Marie, and welcome, Eric, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, of course, always. Now, as you guys know, I always have my questions for the speakers, but should you have any questions along the way, don't keep them until the end. Ping me using the Q&A function on Zoom, or using the chat on Facebook, and I'll be sure to introduce the questions in as often as I can. Other than that, I think we can get started. So I think that since since we're talking a lot about people, and yes, we're going to talk about organizations, and we're going to talk about branding, and all of this stuff ties together. But I think that in comparison to some of the other conversations that I've had, I'd like to start with what happened this year. In some of the conversations, we didn't bring it up at all. In other conversations, it came up only at the end, or somewhere along the way. But I think in this case, I'd like to start with that, because if we're talking about leadership and everything that you guys have learned working and consulting with various leaders of, different size companies, different goals, different levels of impact, etc., I'm really curious to hear from you as a foundation for the rest of the discussion, what you think this year has taught us when it comes to what being a great leader is really about. And I think we should start there, because then from there, kind of the rest of what we know and what we love comes and falls into place. So Marie, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. And I think as with every challenge, comes an opportunity. And if this year has tell us something in regards to leadership, is that there has been like an acceleration, in what was coming or becoming or already a trend into the way we lead. And right now it's like we have to lead with our heart. There's no other choice than to travel to the core. At individual level as a leader, and at organizational level. So I would say this year has accelerated a process of transformation where the human being is at the center. Just to put it like as the first introductory way, and we will surely continue developing during our conversation. But I think Eric, from the human being part of it, the leader all of a sudden becomes the human being again, no? Or
I
needs.
mean, hopefully, I mean, well, listen, I could just listen to you all day, Marie. I really could. So, but I mean, I agree with everything that you just said. I think even more than that, though, it's like leaders are finally having to address questions and things that they previously maybe were on the sidelines or, didn't think about as much. And that includes the more human aspects of business, like what does it mean to lead with purpose? What does it mean to actually have values that don't just sit on a wall that nobody reads, but to actually live them through everything that you do? And then, even on a larger scale, if we're talking about this year, it's amazing the amount of grief that this year has. We can't forget about just in light of everything that's happened, how sad it is. And I think grief in particular, especially in America, is not something that people ever talk about within the context of a business environment. And finally, I think leaders are having to address the more private side of life and realize that their employees are not just employees, but whole people. And so that goes in exactly what you say. How do you understand whole people?
Yeah.
You be a human being.
Yeah, and you can see, think about it. We are right now at home, no? You see, people can see our backgrounds here, no? It is this moment when what you do professionally and what you are as a person, all of the sudden melt, literally. No, it's
And
not
we
that
can tell you're a minimalist based on your background because you have nothing on the wall. So I know something about your soul as a designer.
Exactly. No, but you see, you are discovering a part of yourself that before, at the moment that you entered the office, you somehow left it behind. And one of those things were emotions. No, Eric is talking about grief, and all of a sudden, emotions. Some people were thinking of vulnerability, yes or no. Emotional management, soft skills, yes or no. And all of a sudden, it's like poop. Yes. There's no options, no. Here's where we are, no. And all of it's this wholeness of the human being that it's all of a sudden it's at the office, at the organization, and at the brand. There's no possible choice to separate because literally we have been put together, and then this reflective process starts. No, what am I? Is what I'm doing worth doing it? What are we doing here? No, why are we doing what we are doing? Like all these questions that, as Eric said, no, we had them in the pocket, or we try to forget them or keep them for later. All of a sudden, they are in front of our face, and there's no way that we can move forward unless we go inwards.
So then, can I ask when these leaders or these companies, they come to you guys and let's say, I'm assuming in most cases they've identified that they have a problem, but how do they talk about the problem before you come in and say, like, no, this is actually what's going on? How do they assume, like, what do they assume is wrong? And how do you respond to that? Because I'm really curious how they see it. We see it so clearly, but maybe it's because of the background that we have and the way that we work. But I'm curious how they come to you, and
Ray,
what do they say?
I don't know about your experience, but when people come to me, it's rarely to solve that problem. It's it's the sad fact that a lot of leaders, and I remember from having leadership positions myself, is you get so sucked into the myopic world that you're in that you say, oh, I need a marketing plan, or I need help thinking about my marketing strategy, or I need help figuring out performance management. And then you start to realize that what they're asking for is the thing that's on the surface, but really what they need is, in order to solve those problems, they have to look inward and start to understand, okay, well, you're talking about things that, are up here and executional, but if you don't figure out the foundation of who you are, what you believe, what you stand for at your core, how you then position yourself, how are you ever going to be able to answer the question about a marketing plan or about, the way that you should go to strategy internally? So I guess the answer is, the assumption is that they come to you knowing what they want. And so oftentimes you have to peel back the layers to figure out what they need more than what they want, at least in my experience. What do you think, Marie?
I think it's the same, no? It's like going to the doctor. You go to the doctor and you tell the doctor, my feet is in pain, no? And the doctor say, okay, let's measure your temperature. And you are like, no, but it's my feet what is in pain. And the doctor says, yes, but we need to check temperature before, no? So in a way, and at this moment, the client thinks, what is she doing? You know, like what is she looking? But then slowly, you can, as you move through this journey, because it is actually a journey with the client, it is more easily understandable. Why are we going to the roots in order to see the flowers, no? And I like to use some metaphors as we talk, because it helps to understand or to put this intangibility into images that we can keep in mind, and they are more easily recognizable and memorable, no? To come back. So we have to think that within an organization or whenever we are trying to solve a problem or any, the possibilities are infinite. You can do so many different things, no? So the question is not what is possible to be done here, but what should I be doing for myself in this context that it's aligned what I need, in which I need for who I am and where I want to be, no? So it's like bringing this focus, understanding that how can I hold it in a way that it's unique to me and it resonates to me as an organization, as a brand, and within my employees, almost I would say in an organic and natural way, no? Sometimes it's like, as you said, values on the wall, and you read them and you are like, no, values are in here. You need to be the values, no? You have to know them, but you have to understand and live those values, no? And this is the process in a way that they need to go through, no?
But for a large organization, I'm assuming that putting that kind of, let's say, organic, emotional, inside of everyone thing into a system, which is, you can't say it's not necessary at that size, is where I feel like some of the pieces, fall aside. So I don't know, Eric, if you believe that, for example, what you do with the Human OS is a way of solving for that, and maybe what some of the pillars are of that in order to keep everything together, even when you blow it up at scale.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there are really tangible examples of that. A company that I think a lot of people are familiar with and is Hewlett Packard HP, the computer brand. And you think about this company that was the birthplace of Silicon Valley over 80 years ago, the start of Silicon Valley. And then all of a sudden, all of the other things start happening in Silicon Valley and HP gets forgotten again. Then you have HP coming, to people like us and saying, well, we had this value system that was really important 80 years ago, but in the context of the modern context of today, is that still relevant? Do we still believe what we want to believe? And are we just going on autopilot? And so that's what I see with these big established companies is they did all of this work and they did a good job of looking inward and thinking about who they are. And maybe they were purpose driven and then they left it on the side and it gathered all this dust and the world moved on beyond them. And, they have to go back and say, I have to reevaluate who I am, just like you do as a human being as you go through life. You don't stay consistent with the same set of values. You shift them and articulate them as you get older and as you move forward. It's the same with organizations. So I think it's just as relevant for these big companies to do that inward looking and say, wait, when's the last time we did that? When's the last time we had our physical?
Interesting.
And I think, Flavia, maybe what you're going to hear is how can you be consistent in your flexibility, or how can you articulate these necessary milestones or pinpoints or hooks in the way at scale, and I think this is the magic of values in itself. Whenever values are like, if you think about values as needs, or as energetic entities, this, no? And you tell me that we're going to be humble in this organization. Humbleness has many forms, no? The most important thing is that I understand, or I keep on understanding, going through this journey of understanding what humbleness means. And then me as an individual, as an employee, I would be able to make decisions that are aligned to this humbleness in whichever way, color, shape, or form. But as long as they are aligned in the humbleness resonance, we would be bringing energy together, no? So we have to understand organizations are like bundles of discretionary energy. And what you need to do is to focus this energy to reach a goal. And then values, vision, mission, purpose, those are tools to focus this energy.
Murray, I think you're pointing to the biggest thing at all is we talk about organizations and we talk about brands, but where we are both 100% aligned, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that those are constructs. Those are things that are made up. All of those things are just made of people. And we create structure around them as if they have a different being. So when you're talking about a brand or organization, you're talking about a collection of people that have aligned to do something. And so if they don't know if they're aligned to do something, what is that thing? And are they all aligned against it? And that's where the organizations fail, is because you have people that have different ideas in their head about what they're doing there. But we're talking about these things as if they're real, but they're not real. They're just people.
Exactly. No, and that's where the human being comes at the core. No, understanding how to manage this human being. If you understand that, then you will be able to manage the organization and the brand and everything, because those are a result of human nature.
So then how come the concept of humanity has been let's say so difficult to be discussed in a business context up until now?
If you,
yeah, I mean, there's so
$1 million question.
Yeah, I mean, it's the $1 million question, right? And I mean, the answer to 99 questions out of 100 is money. So like, I mean, right, like we know the answer to that question is because people get maniacally focused on profit over all things. And it's a question of capitalism itself that you're asking about. If we, so long as we have a capitalist system in place that says that we're going to put the value of a company above all else, then you can't possibly get your priorities right, because you can only incentivize short-term goals. And so like, this is my honest answer to this question, but it's like, you're talking about the entire system of how business runs. What if there's a world where business is meant to foster community and individual growth, and that was the goal? Instead of making money, we wouldn't have this problem. But the problem that we're facing is that money is the only thing that matters.
Let me also point here to one thing. We need to always understand the roots, no? And we are in a way we are talking here about management and leadership, culture, and the legacy of it, no? So if you look at where that all began, no, with Taylorism, what they were trying to do is to bring things at scale. And the first, or the roots of management, it's control. Command and control, not from a scary or bad thing way of doing. It's about finding standards of production that they can serve at the end, a product that it's the same one that they sold, so that we are trying to multiply things. When management and leadership gets totally stuck into this repetitional thing and controlling exactly what the person is doing in there, it's missing the point in an era like the 21st century, where organizations are made out of interpersonal relationships, knowledge, information, creativity, like when we are stuck still at looking at management in the same way that we were producing spoons, so to say, and we are not producing spoons anymore. So we need to find other ways to understand. And traditionally, the human factor within the organization has been observed, or the heart, even today, if I say the heart, leading with the heart, and everyone says, oh, she's a hippie, flower power. What is she talking about? Like, this is too soft. This is not good. We need strength. And then I say, the bamboo is flexible and strong. Resilience, it's what we need. Like I think the speed of transformation has been faster than our ability to adapt our mindsets into how should we be dealing with all those things. And capitalism is also in there. No, what are we trying to achieve? No, and I would say nowadays, not taking attention to the human factor, you're losing money. You're losing money. If you want to be a capitalist, a true one, go for the human factor.
So Flavia, if you wanted a linear answer to that question, nope, you're not getting one. What you're getting is the truth from both of us.
I love it. You know me. I don't need a linear answer to anything.
Sorry if anybody else needs a linear answer.
I'm okay with convoluted, exploratory discussion. I'm fine. I'm wondering then if we just think about the context of rebels and rulers for a second, so I can bring it back just a little bit. Then, I mean, what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes companies are making in terms of branding then, when it comes to this human era, let's say, or this human side of things? Where are they failing? And I mean, I'm tempted to say, and if you have any examples that you can point to, but it's okay if we don't necessarily want to point. But Mother always said it's not nice to point, so maybe. But I'm just curious in terms of branding, you know, where do we fall flat? I understand the management side. I understand the leadership side, and I think they're all intertwined. That's true. But when it comes to even if you have it correctly done inside, or you've grasped the concept, or there's, let's say, a group of leaders that have understood, and people feel great working there, when it comes to actually transmitting that externally, do we fail?
You know, it makes sense. Is it okay if I go first, Marie? Or
Please.
Okay, I didn't mean to jump in. I apologize for that.
No, that's totally fine.
Well, I know, but like, you gotta be, you know, it's like
we're dancing, Eric. We're dancing.
A little bit. I think it's an interesting question, but like at the heart of what you're talking about is the idea that we have, sorry, I lost my train of thought because I was saying again, so jog my memory. We're talking about
so I was wondering, what is one of the biggest mistakes that we're doing in terms of branding when it comes to this human side?
No, I mean, it's the same thing that we've been talking about all along, where for so long it's been simply business as usual. And that's where a lot of branding is falling flat now, where it's still just marketing activity that's doing the same thing that it's always been doing, which is, you know, the same paradigm of, you know, let's do the media plan that has X, Y, and Z. We'll put a TikTok thing up. We'll do an Instagram story. It's just business as usual as marketing. And, you know, this goes back to what you're saying before. In all of these ways, things have been changing for a long time. Things have been evolving. There's been the digital ambush has come and, you know, come and gone, and everything's happened with that. And, you know, we've become a fully immersed, connected world. But advertising and branding have stayed basically the same.
Yeah.
And so has leadership and the way that companies have been run, and they're intertwined. You know, if anything that we've learned from this year is that business as usual sucks. If you continue to go down the path of just doing things the same way and expecting the same result, it's insanity. And I mean, in the very same way that leaders are starting to adopt more human qualities, I would love to see brands adopt really human qualities and not, you know, I'm seeing a note around the idea of diversity in branding. It's a great example. It feels still like there's a box checking mechanism that happens with branding. Do I have the mixed group of people? Check. Did I make a funny joke? Check. Did I do something that it feels that there's a hashtag? Check. You know, it feels like the same thing. It's a rinse and repeat over and over again. And I think that's where brands are falling flat, is nobody's taking risks. And that's what's starting to really bother me. Marie, what do you think?
So. I think this comes back to the Hamlet question, to be or not to be. no? And brands are trying to sometimes, as you said, no, have this and this and this and this, because it seems like that's what I have to have, that because that's what the last successful brand had, you know, so let me copycat, no? And in this stage where all these different media, all these different strategies, all these different platforms, and you can articulate yourself in so many different ways, no? The difficulty is to finding the ways that really speak to who you are and how you are in the moment, who, no, is in this to be or not to be. It's this, it's not about looking like, it's not about appearance, it is about being, no? And this being has to be reflected at every step of this branding strategy, on this communication strategy, on this marketing strategy. You know, I think marketing has a tradition of using, even I would say, the language of war, targets, capturing, you know, like all these things that is like, okay, you know,
engage the enemy, even that is,
you know. So maybe we should start trying to observe even the language that we are using at the moment that we are articulating who we are as a brand, no, or how we are becoming this brand.
But see, it's such a vicious, I feel like it's such a, because I feel for the good marketers out there, you know, I feel for them. And because yes, the industry is messed up, and yes, we're also responsible for how messed up it is. And we've talked in some of the other sessions about how the fact that branding is still misunderstood is highly our fault, because we keep trying to use different language and to get unique phrases that we can coin about the same thing and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, what I'm worried about is that those check boxes are also created by the society around those marketers, because if they don't have it checked, then what happens? Then you're in an era where people can lash out so strongly at you without looking at the full context, because nobody has the patience to sit there and look at the full context of your company and say, oh, okay, so actually in this particular era or area, it just so happens that this box wasn't so ticked, but it seems like this company overall is actually doing a really good job of ticking this box. But nobody has the patience of, they see just that one piece of communication, or they see just that one panel, or they see that one leader, or whatever it might be, and it can immediately instigate a reaction. So how do we mediate? What can we do to better mediate and better bring both sides to, let's say, a more, I would say, normal, calm, collective spirit, for lack of better words? Sorry, that was a very long-winded.
No, I mean, it's good. I mean, we're talking about, it goes to being like, it's in my opinion, like the role of, I guess when we think about marketing or brand communications, it used to be about simply what it is you say and what it is you put out in the world, and communication or dialogue or whatever you want to call it. But it seems like now it's like the full story of the brand is everything that the organization does, that the group of people in the organization do, from how they hire and fire people, to how they evaluate performance, to how they to how the ambassadors and the employees themselves carry themselves in the world, to how they individually show up in social media channels. And I think that's where brand is really successful these days, primarily because, we've been talking about noise. There's more and more noise. It's not just in the marketing place. Like, when's the last time you just clicked on Netflix and you're like, I can't freaking believe how much content there is? And that's what everybody's competing with. So I think marketers are realizing that brand is the full spectrum of what an organization does and how it behaves, and not just a communication thing. And that's where the best marketers are right now. What do you, Marie, are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, totally. And referring back to what you were mentioning, Flavia, what is branding, like this intangible thing. And these days you mentioned a couple of times, the dark force, it is because I think the brand is the tangible, visible part of an energetic, intangible, invisible energy bundle that it's being created at every step of the organization, like from, as you just mentioned, and Eric, from recruiting to the CEO, personnel, or unofficial Twitter account where he is expressing his opinion. No? So it is this big thing. And when you mention, so what can we do? Because people are not looking at the organization in general, blah, 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 the whole picture and everything. I think as long as you're being consistent, no? And that's what values, vision, mission, purpose is helping you to be. Whatever it happens, even if it's a misunderstanding, you would be able to talk about it and to clarify. Because it's not that you're going to get it right every time that you
I think you just sorry, I didn't mean to. You said something really interesting in the language that I've used when I've been working with marketers now has been to get rid of the word alignment, because that assumes that everybody's going to agree on something or come to a consensus on something. And I've been talking a lot more about the idea of commitment, which is to say, what are we going to commit to doing as an organization? What are we going to disagree about, but then come to a commitment to say, we're going to act this way. We're going to do this. This is going to be our through line as a brand, as an organization. The problem is that too many people have these alignment meetings where they expect people to, what happens in an alignment meeting is somebody disagrees until they're beaten into submission, and then they nod yes, and they think no. They think, no, I'm not on board. Where you say what we're going for is, can you commit to this? I know you disagree with this approach, but can you commit to doing it because it's the best thing for the business? If we can start using that language in organizations, I think marketers and everybody else are going to have a much easier time moving forward. So thanks for spurring that thought, Maria. I just
no. We are back to this flexible consistency, no? Because we're living those times where the answers are not black or white. They are intrinsically ambiguous, and we need to learn to navigate in this ambiguity, And that's what it really brings authenticity and the strongest creativity, I would say, and understanding how do I navigate ambiguity is where many different possible answers that fit within the boundaries of your commitment, your determination, your coherence, they would be able to play in the possible options that would help all your departments to be aligned, sorry to use it again, without having to say exactly the same words, man.
Okay, so this ties a little bit to the question that was posed by someone here on Zoom, Anna, who says, how do you integrate diversity in all of its forms to really capture the whole potential of contradictions and visions of the world within the journey of value creation? And I think this is exactly what you guys are talking about, no? This is exactly, and I hope, Anna, this somewhat answers your question about how to bring people of very different backgrounds, opinions, etc., to come together. And maybe it's Eric's way, but yeah, go ahead, Marie.
No, I was thinking, and this is, I think, as deep as this question is a complex question to answer, and we need to acknowledge the complexity of the question in order to be able to approach a complex but as much as simple possible answer to this need. So I have opened now the chat and I am able to read it, so I can keep the pace of this, because it's a very deep question, and a question that it needs to be answered. This is not the only answer, and it's not a final answer, no? So we are here in temporary answers. We are looking for temporary answers, and this is also the nature of the organizations. We need to understand organizations as dialogical beings. We need to understand them as living organisms. And when you look at the organization from this other perspective, then you see that you need to create spaces for this agreement and disagreement thing. No? So there's contradictions, but if I don't see contradictions as an attack, No, whenever you have Flavia or Eric a different opinion from mine, I don't see it as something that it's like putting me to being less or having lost the argument, but I approach it from a curious perspective, no, or attitude, and I try to understand, what do you really mean? When I am active listening to what you are saying, I might be learning that things are not flat but 3D. No? And then we can slowly integrate all those different contradictions and ambitions and opinions, not from the perspective of a winning-losing game, but a win-win ending together. No? And it's, yes, it is a journey of value creation in the sense that you need to reevaluate at every step. It's not 200 hours reevaluation at every step, but you need to be mindful. Let's put this word. You need to be mindful at every step that you are on values, no, and you are creating value. And which value would you like to create? But then within the organization, and this is the beauty of the organization, no, that you have this ability of learning from, and then also considering that brands are being built from the consumers, no, listen to the consumer. Don't take it as an attack. Take it as an opportunity, disagreement. No, you can disagree. We can agree to disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. Let's put it like that. No, and from this mindset, this learning mindset, this active listening mindset, you can start integrating diversity as an ongoing journey of learning, no, for everyone.
I mean, I agree with so much, and I agree with so much, and I have a slightly, almost a different perspective, in a complementary way. I agree. It's maybe one of the deeper questions that anybody has posed on a Zoom thing. So thank you, Anna, for that question. It's a really important question and a really deep question. Like so many other things, it feels like there's a lot of conversation around diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging, and it's used as a PR tool or as another box checking mechanism where we say we have X number of people that are of color or X number of women. And that to me is, I don't know how to say this delicately. That to me is it's gonna get us nowhere to do things that way. To truly embrace the idea of diversity, inclusion, and belonging, there has to be a culture of openness, a culture of curiosity that isn't just about saying we're going to fill the seats with people that look like X, Y, and Z, but rather we're going to fill the seats with people that bring X, Y, and Z lenses and perspectives on things. And I mean, that's where, probably the biggest buzzword of 2020 in a lot of ways is empathy, this idea of empathy. And you hear organizations talking about empathy. And I've been thinking a lot about, empathy is a very slippery word to have, but it's really important when we're talking about listening to people. There's 18 different definitions for it. If you think about empathy as the ability as best as possible to see something else through somebody else's eyes. What does it take to get there? And that's at least how I think about empathy, is trying as best as, I'll never know your pain, I'll never know what you feel, but I can at least try to do it. There's two things that are necessary for that. One is understanding, but the thing that goes before understanding is curiosity. And so when I talk to organizations about diversity, it's a question about asking, what perspective are we not getting? What perspective are we not considering? And then how do we best make sure that we are understanding the world from that lens? And then you think of the human being that's going to help you get there. And hopefully that human being also reflects the diversity of what's needed, but it has to start from that curiosity. So for me, organizations need to be spurred to be more curious and less box checking on, do we have X number of people in the right seats?
It's it's interesting because as you guys are talking, I keep thinking that almost the nature of an organization wanting to make plans, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just thinking about this now, but the nature of an organization wanting to make plans far in advance is almost what set us up for failure in a certain way, because we sit there and we say, whatever I decide now has to be relevant and has to stay the same for the next X amount of time. And so then I've almost boxed myself in to this space that doesn't allow for much change or movement, or because the nature of a very large organization, I'm using the large ones as examples because I think that when you take it to scale is when you realize this problem, is that you feel like there's no other way to run something that large without planning to that extent. So then I'm almost stuck between a rock and a hard place. And then you have the fact that the large organizations are also the ones having the potential for the greatest impact because they have the most to give, basically.
I mean, you're just spurring so many thoughts. I mean, it's a really interesting insight. You know, I don't know, but when we really think about the future and the direction of where companies are going, I'm starting to see the death of the big companies. And I think our future is going to be billions of tiny companies. I mean, look at the direct-to-consumer space alone. There used to be Casper, Warby Parker, a few big ones. Now there's billions of them. And so like, we're talking about these big companies, but I think we're going to slowly see them die. I don't know, like, why are they relevant? Why are we talking about the big companies? I just don't think they're the future.
I think it's interesting even that the fact that they could die is a possibility, but then again, you sit and think about how many have already gone that are of that size. So you never really know. Sorry, Marie, go ahead.
No. I know. I'm thinking, and in this ambiguity or contradiction of planning or not planning, you do need to plan, but then at the same time, if you plan and you are too strong with your plans, all of a sudden you stop being, you start to become a robot, no? And then things cut down out of the humanity on the thing, no? I think we need to understand that plans are there to guide, no? It's like the map is not the territory, and you draw a map and you have this vision, you know where you want to go, and you follow the map, but along the way, as you move forward in your journey, you recognize the landscape from a different perspective, and you understand it from a different perspective. So you might need to reevaluate your choices, no? And there's this need for what I call humble confidence, no? You need to be humble in acknowledging that you don't know all the answers. You don't know everything that is going to happen in and now I would say 1 month. Maybe before I would have said 1 year. Now let me put it in the 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 5 years. 5 years is crazy to think about 5 years right now, like totally crazy. It's 100 years from last year, So you need this humbleness to understand that you don't know all the answers, but at the same time, you need the confidence to make the next step in a way that you feel secure and that you are showing that you know what you are doing, no? You have the confidence of being sensible and reflective in what you're doing, and that your intention is to do the best possible option within those values, within your purpose, within your vision, But at the next step, you need to be humble to understand that you might understand things differently next week because the context might have imploded, exploded, reploded, whatever it brings, because it's not only about your organization. Your organization is living in an ecosystem. And the thing is that we have been observing this year as our ecosystem is very volatile, very much more volatile than what you thought when you were writing down VUCA 1 year ago, Right now you are sensing how volatile it is, no? And it is in this maybe it's back to understanding the nature of existence, It's not about command and control. You cannot control. You have to flow, you have to understand, you have to be, of course, you need milestones and reference points, but you still need to be able to react and to self-correct and to fail and to learn and to continue.
So then let's think a little bit of a I don't want to say more. No, I'm not going to say it. Let's think of a different question. So since we're talking about, can you imagine? No, it's just like the extent of what we're talking about is so large that it's difficult for me I don't want to encompass it in any one word. And me being a writer as a person of words, I just don't like to make those those mistakes. But if we're talking about, because it feels like a lot of this is value driven, right? And at the end of the day, purpose, belief, etc. In order for you to take that and to then extrapolate it into an organization and to get everybody to go along with you and with where you want to go, you need to have some kind of pillars, some kind of way for them to, like you were saying, Marie, use examples and understand how to act. So I'm curious about your guys' actual approaches, and I'm assuming that they might be a little bit different, but when it comes to helping organizations identify the values that are right for them, and identify the ones that they will be able to stay focused on in the long term, because this is actually something that we can identify, like your personality, you know, there's like a certain extent to which they remain relatively the same or similar. There might be some smaller changes here and there, like you were saying, Eric, but at the end of the day, this is one of the things that we can decide for a longer period of time, right? Values. How do you guys go about, like, what's your process about, you know, when you're talking to leaders or about how to identify the right values for the organization?
Me first? You first. Me first. Okay, yeah, you were. I could tell you were looking into my soul, so I felt. You know, it's despite pretending that I'm a creative person, I forget that, like, I really am at the core. My background is a technology person. You got to remember. So I got, you know, my PhD work was in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I worked at the big tech companies. And I thought a lot about this idea of in technology, an operating system, an OS, is something basic that enables more complex tasks to happen. So you understand that without Apple OS or Android, you can't play Candy Crush or watch a YouTube video. Like, you can't do that without an operating system. So when I started to think about starting my own company, the human operating system, I started to think, well, in many ways, this is true in technology, but it's also true of ourselves and true of organizations. We're constantly pretending that things like writing values or doing a positioning thing or talking about a marketing plan are all these discrete entities, or even hiring or firing are these discrete entities. And I said, no, these are all part of the operating system of an organization or the operating system of a person.
Mm-hmm.
And where that starts is with discovery for me. So whenever I work with a leader or organization, I say, you know, we've got to really get to the heart of who you are and what you believe. We've got to get to what I think of as really your internal mantra, your few words. Maybe it's something around unlocking potential. Maybe it's something around, you know, changing the world. I don't know. But it starts with understanding what are the characteristics, what are the core of who you are as both a leader or an organization. And from that, you say, okay, that's great. Once we have that, your purpose, we can say, what is your vision? And by vision, you have to define it. A vision for me is, what does the world look like in an ideal state? What does the world look like if your job is done? So I work for a nonprofit. Our vision is to change the lives of grieving children forever. Change the lives of, I mean, it's, you know, a big, lofty thing. So many people skip that step and go directly to a mission, which is how you're going to do that every day. And you see, like, that mission is, we're going to create a platform that does X, Y, and Z. And without getting that purpose and that vision first, and making sure that you have this through line through everything that you're doing. So I think of this operating system as concentric layers. It's a purpose right in the middle. Then there's a vision and a mission. And from that, you've got your values, who you are, and then your positioning, what you're going to say, and your personality, how you're going to behave. And all of this is not just part of the marketing or execution, but it's through everything that you do as an organization or everything that you do as a leader. So the process is working through that model with them and saying, just as an operating system and technology enables more complex tasks to happen, this is your operating system, and we have to build and install it so that you can do the more complex things in your organization.
Nice. Marie? How about
So
you?
as in the way that Eric is on the brand operating system, my field of specialty or my focus right now, it is on the leader, no? It is on the person, it is on the individual. And I am right now focused on studying, developing, and testing or sensing what I call leading from the heart. And leading from the heart is based on 4 different pillars, or what I call the 4 chambers of the heart. The first one is the ethical one, and it would encompass in a way all this, the purpose, the vision, the mission, this understanding who you are, what's your worldview, what's your stand in the world. And the next one would be the emotional one, so understanding how you the self-managing, self-awareness and self-managing emotions as a leader, trying to understand or to improve on this ability. Then you move into the social ones, so it is, and the quality, understanding what are your operations, or the way that the things that you are doing, which quality for interpersonal relationships are enabling for you and within the organization. The next one is the physiological one, or the one that it's embodied. So you have to understand leading as an energetic interplay. And in here, we could go into detail on how, even from emotional, how our systems, body systems work, no? At hormonal level, how cortisol or how oxytocin are helping us to make the most of our machinery in order to be creative and open, and how we are resonating energy from literally from our heart into the room. No? And this is because of the electromagnetic field produced by the heart. And the last one, it's the spiritual one, or the spiritual chamber, where whenever you are feeling connected to what has meaning, and this meaningful experience is being shared at the level of the spirit of the organization or the brand, it is amplified. And you can see that this circle, these 4 different stages, which have many different layers within, depending on the person, that you could explore and discover. No, I call it unlocking possibilities. You are creating the highest possible energy, in the sense that we need to understand that whenever you are moved by control or fear, you're putting energy into minus, and you're drawing energy from yourself and from the group. And whenever you are moving in the direction of love, starting on trust, yeah, as one of the pillars, you are moving the energy towards the highest levels. The more that you can sustain energy at the highest level, the more that you are able to co-learn, co-create, yeah, and advance as an individual and as a group in coherence with your values, purpose, vision, and mission. So you are really focusing the energy that you have, you are modulating it, you are transmitting, and you are amplifying it. No? So it is like a synergetic perspective. No, I take it right now. I work with it as an executive coach, but we have also explored this within organizations and teams, and we have found ways and strategies that really I do work tailor-made within each organization.
That's so nice. What about if there are people, I don't know if there are people listening, they might be from small organizations, they might be from larger ones, but I'm sitting there thinking, if, how easy is it to change a value system, an internal culture, once you've established it? I mean, maybe for, I think that's probably one of the biggest questions for some of the brands that we'd love to influence the most. I think that comes up rather quickly.
What I've found is that, and this is not meant to be a slight, it's just most people that think that they've done this work haven't done this work. They might have created a value statement or a mission statement, but they haven't truly done this work. So when you talk about, they might have written some values on a wall, and then you asked 50 people in the organization and none of them can recite one of them. So the work isn't done. And so my biggest thing is to say, truly how much you've invested. So when you talk about changing values or changing it, it's rarely that. I think of a lot of what I do, maybe it's the same way for you, but like, it's a little bit of an archaeologist, right? The stuff already exists and you're sort of dusting it off and polishing the rock and saying, no, these things exist. They're there endemically. You just haven't unearthed them. And so it's not about changing values. It's not about changing the course. It's about figuring out what the truth is.
Yeah,
Very
and
nice.
what a beautiful image, no? And it's this ability, this finding this way to take the water, take the dust out of it, no? And all of that, and that's why you resonate with it, because it comes from within and it goes to the outside. It's not a hat that you put in your head, you know. It's not a dress, it's not a jacket. It doesn't make you look like better or more cooler or whatever. It is something that it comes from within and from within the organization. Some organizations, they are unable to recognize their values. They have some values on the wall which they think they are cool, but actually the values through which they are acting and operating are much more valuable, and the people are resonating at them. But the fact that you have this gap between what you think that you are and what you truly are, is that what it's making you move, you know, like that you are not flowing as an organization, no? So yes, values are found within. They are always there. Yeah.
We only have a few minutes left, so I definitely want to ask before you guys go. Although I'd love to stay here much longer, obviously. But do you guys have any, let's say, I want to say trends in brand leadership that you're looking forward to seeing evolve next year? Is there something that you'd really like to see more of? Something that you'd like to?
I took the ball. I think there has been, so the trends have been already there, but they have been like more into the, oh yes, for purpose organizations are coming. That's what is needed. I think this is the true time where to show if are we able to build those for purpose organizations, true for purpose organizations. Are we able to understand what it means, what it takes, how difficult it's going to be, how challenging, that this is not soft. This is the biggest challenge ever that your organization is going to have to face. Maybe you also might have fun out of it. You will grow out of it. You will mature out of it, but it's not going to be easy or soft. Then we have also, I think we should continuously observing conscious brands. And it's not that one thing and the other are separate. Again, many different names for maybe the same thing. And then you start listening to this brand activism, no? And I think it's, at the end of the day, it comes back to the same thing, no? It's about acting in coherence of what you are, and taking on finally onto this responsibility of brands as social leaders and brands as the new democracy, no? Are gonna be brands daring and able to take on the role that they truly already represent?
I mean, I think that is so well articulated, and exactly, you know, what I was thinking of. The biggest trend I hope to see is people, business leaders, stepping up and rethinking what the role of business is in the world and the role that business plays. You know, especially if you look at, you know, no matter where you stand politically, if you look at what's gone on in America this year, you know, it's truly not a question that business plays a massive role in every part of the social fabric of not just this country, and every country. And it can't just be about saying one thing and doing another thing. It's got to be about coming forth and saying, this is who we are and what our role in the world is. That's, I mean, I want to see that trend continue, not just next year, but, you know, for the next 10.
That's great, guys. I can't imagine, to be honest, I can't imagine a nicer place to stop. So I'm not gonna ask anything else, because it's, as we all know, you know, after listening to you guys, I think, Marie, during your talk, everybody in the room was obviously just so, how should I say this? The energy was definitely there. You can feel it, you can see it, you can see that people react instantly to this kind of discussion. So obviously people are there, people are already there, you know, and they just need the right, I feel like, the right leaders to bring that out of them and say, it's okay, you know, use it, show it, it's fine, you know, don't, whatever its manifestation might be, as long as, you know, obviously you don't inflict any harm on others, of course. And then Eric, during your talk, I mean, there were literally people with tears in their eyes in the room. I mean, there's, because of the way you talk about this stuff, and you see that you feel it, and you live it every day. So to be honest, guys, as we get to the end of this month, I couldn't have imagined two better people to pull together. And hopefully for the people watching, thank you again for joining us. But hopefully for you guys watching, you will continue to follow these two in everything that they're trying to achieve, and pass them along as much positive energy as possible, so that they may help influence as many of these leaders as they can, because we all have a lot to gain from it. So I thank you guys. I thank you, Marie and Eric, for being here, really. And I know that I'm going to see you guys soon. And for everybody else that's watching, as I mentioned, you still have today and tomorrow. So visit rebelsrulers.com to see the masterclass, and then join us for the other live tomorrow. We're ending with a very creative kick. So with Michael Johnson and Sonal from ex Ogilvy. So definitely join us. And I guess until then, I wish you all a good day. And thank you again, guys, so much. This was lovely.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Everybody.